So I'm here today talking to my aunt, Liz Watson. Liz is a very inspirational person who was recently presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award for engineering by the organisation Women in Science and Engineering. So Liz, thank you very much for talking to us this afternoon. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your story. How did you become an engineer? Where did you study? And what led you to this decision?
So at school, if I go back that far, I was good at sciences. I was good at physics, chemistry and maths. So that's what I was doing for the final exams at school. And a lot of the colleagues that I was doing these subjects with were boys, and they were doing engineering. And I have to say, at the time, I probably didn't know what engineering was in any detail. But anything they could do, I could do just as well. So I went to university, I went to Oxford, and I did an engineering science degree. And following that, got a job with Rolls Royce. And I have to say, even though I didn't know what it was, I've never regretted going into engineering. There's so much scope, so many different careers you can follow in a big company or in a small company. I've enjoyed it, the bulk of it at least. So never regretted that decision at all.
And at the time when you were studying, were there many other female undergraduate engineering students?
No, there was 100 people on the course in the year, and there were 2 females. So we were 2%.
So this is quite.
So it's very usual for me to be in a group of men. It's quite unusual, although it has happened more recently, to be in a group that's more women than men.
What led you to choosing Rolls Royce as the company that you would eventually have a 40-year career with?
Yeah, so taking engineering at university, then the subjects I was good at were thermodynamics and aerodynamics, and there aren't that many companies in the UK that have those as specialisms. So Rolls Royce, in the aero engines that they design, they use a lot of aerodynamics and thermodynamics, and I followed that. Took a 2-year, they called it graduate apprenticeship training with them, going around the shop floor departments and then some of the staff departments, and then found the job I preferred. So I was always really following what I was good at and what I liked, more so than any great grand plan of a career.
So Liz, could you tell us a little bit about the roles you've had during your career? Because I believe you were at Rolls Royce for 40 years.
Yes. So I started at Rolls Royce in the 1970s, and the UK was in big recession at the time. So it was quite difficult to progress because Rolls Royce were losing people. The company was shrinking. So progress was very slow to start off with, probably about 5 years before I got any sort of promotion at all. But then gradually climbed up that ladder, always wanting to do a managerial position, not a deep technical specialist position. It's not something that interests me as much as the general engineering and program management work, and it's not something I'm particularly good at either. So wanting to do management, just really looking for the next promotion, but times were, it was a long time between them. I worked on a project developing a gas turbine engine for the Navy, and I spent a long time on that project. It was a completely new type of engine, and I probably spent too long there. I suppose I turned 40 at the time, and so you can see that it was quite a long period. And then the dream job came up, the job that I always thought I'd take, which was head of technology. So they did things like aerodynamics and thermodynamics that I was good at. That job came up and I didn't get it, and I was absolutely devastated by that. And I thought, 40 and finished, career's over, I need to give up now, I'll leave, I'll retire, I'll take up gardening or something like that. But about 6 months later, I got offered the chief engineer job on the Navy engine, which was the sort of job of my dreams at the time. But it was a pretty tough period, that 6 months, when I didn't think I was going anywhere.
And as chief engineer, what kind of responsibilities did you have? Because I believe you were maybe the first
Yes.
woman to become a
Yes.
chief engineer at
Well,
Rolls Royce.
and that position was the first woman
Okay.
chief engineer. So your responsibilities you're responsible for this. This was the development of the engine. So we were testing at the time. So the test schedule, the type of tests we do, how much it costs. We were also working with partners on this engine. So trying to work out what they did and what we did and how all that fitted together. It's a team of about 40 engineers directly working for you, and then there was another group of engineers doing the more detailed design and analysis work, looking at the test results. But you are really responsible for the whole of the design of that engine, and also that it remains safe. But the big responsibility of safety of these engines, they can be quite dangerous. They
And
break.
do you see attitudes changing towards female engineers, especially senior female engineers? How has the culture at all changed since the 1970s? Not just in Rolls Royce, but in engineering in general.
Well, I think the
say?
culture's changed enormously. It's very slow. I mean, 1970s is a long time ago. It is slow, but I think at the time, why would any woman be employed in engineering if her husband's got a job? She doesn't need one. It was very much that. But I think gradually women coming through and succeeding in these roles is giving people confidence that women can do it just as well as men. And I think that was a responsibility I felt when I was the first chief engineer. I wasn't only succeeding in that role for me. If I'd have made a mess of it, it would have set back women in Rolls Royce for quite a long time. So I felt a lot of pressure at the time to succeed.
And what qualities do you think you had to achieve this very senior position in Rolls Royce?
Well, first of all, you're reasonably good at engineering, but I think what it came down to is determination to do it. There was a lot of hours I put in when I was learning the job. It was a lot of responsibility compared with what I'd had before. And you also got involved in the commercial side. How you're going to sell the engine, how much is it going to cost, all of those sorts of things. Who are your main customers, what's the production run going to be in order to pay back on the project. So there was all of that was relatively new to me, that I had to look at in detail. So the ability to learn on the job, to listen to people, to understand other engineers. But I think it does come back being absolutely determined and single-minded, and actually letting the family and your husband and everything else, all your hobbies and your friends, just push to one side for a while you concentrated on that, and then as you got better at it, to bring them back in again. So really very focused on it.
And as a final question, what advice would you give to young women maybe thinking about either entering into university to study engineering and science, or those who are already thinking about a career in engineering? What would your advice be?
Well, I think if you're good at sciences, you couldn't get a better career. There are just so many options open to you in engineering. So do the sciences. Find a job in engineering or in science afterwards. That there's just so much scope. I just don't think you can go wrong. If you look at the experience that I've had, the sort of products I've worked on, the people I've worked with, the places I've worked, the scope of you can almost do anything you like with an engineering degree. And there's lots of jobs out there for engineers, which isn't always the case with others. I think the other thing that you're going to have, being still a woman in a man's world, is you're going to have confidence in yourself. So know your abilities. When people tell you things and you don't really agree with them, just go out and prove them that they're wrong. And be confident in the choices you make about, are you going to work part-time when you have a family? Are you going to work full-time when you have a family? It's your choice. It's not anyone else's choice. There's no right or wrong answer to any of this. Just get out there and do it. Make up your mind and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Liz, I'd just like to, congratulate you again on receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think it's a wonderful recognition because, as you said, you did become successful and you really did, I think, inspire many women, not just in Rolls Royce, but also in the UK. And now with this award, with this interview, you'll be able to continue inspiring, the new generation of women engineers and women scientists. So congratulations.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.